Hey, this is Joe Barnes from the Screw the System YouTube channel, and I'm back with another video. Now, today's video focuses on the top 10 inspirational films to help change your life. Now, these are the films that I've chosen that over the years have given me a boost of inspiration or motivation whenever I've doubted my path. Now, my advice to you is that you watch these films, maybe rewatch the ones you've seen already, because I feel that they have an ability to communicate a deeper, visceral message. They let you know whenever you're experiencing failure after a failure, or you're feeling down, or you're doubting yourself. They communicate a message which connects deep within your soul, telling you that you must carry on in your attempts to live your dream. So without further ado, let's begin the list, and let's start with number 10. And in at number 10, we have Men of Honor, featuring Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro, portraying the true life story of US diver Carl Brashear. Now, the thing that's so inspiring about this film is that Carl doesn't just have a difficult dream, he has an impossible dream. He isn't attempting to become a millionaire or invent a new product. In 1940s and 50s America, which is still heavily segregated, he wants to achieve the position of master diver in the US Navy. Now, no African American has ever done this before, and he's told at multiple stages throughout the film to give up. The system isn't going to bend for him. It's not going to change just because one man believes he could and should have this position. And during the film, you get to see him overcome racism, death threats, sabotage by his colleagues, and later on a disability. And what's so powerful about it is you get a real life portrayal of the extra dedication that's needed to turn your dreams into reality. Perhaps the most powerful scene for me was midway through the film when Carl is taking the final part of his exam to become a master diver. He's down on the seabed floor and he has to construct this thing called a flange. And when his teammates go to pass him the tools needed to do this, one of them sabotages the toolkit so it spills out on the seabed. Now, at this point, Carl is faced with the decision. Does he do what 99% of people would do and give up? Or does he spend the next 6 to 8 hours scrambling around on the seabed in freezing cold conditions, trying to put together this flange so he can pass the final part of his exam? And as I said earlier, this scene epitomizes the extra dedication that's needed to turn your dreams into reality. In at number 9, we have Braveheart. This 1995 film won the Oscar for Best Picture and stars Mel Gibson as the historical character William Wallace. Yes, I'm aware that there's some discrepancy over the accuracy of the events in the film and what took place. However, for me, this didn't really matter. The main message of the film was stand up to your oppressor, and the tagline of the film was particularly inspiring. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. And this is a reminder that there are some things in life worth dying for, in particular your freedom and the rights of the people you love. Now, the film starts off with William Wallace having to defend his own honour and the honour of his wife as the English enforce their prima nocte rule. This basically means that when a Scottish couple married, the English overlord got to spend the first night with the Scottish wife. Wallace won't accept this, and his rebellion against this then turns into a full-scale rebellion against English rule. And going back to that tagline of everybody dies but not everybody lives really captures what his crusade is about. Yes, your heart may be beating, and yes, you may be breathing air, but are you really alive? Are you actually living a life if you're constantly bowing down to an oppressor and agreeing to the rules which are completely unjust? Watching this film fills you with a sense of fighting spirit, knowing that your quest and journey to live your dreams, whatever it might be, is right, and that you must fight, even possibly to the death, for the right to live your dreams and for your freedom. In at number 8, we have The Pursuit of Happyness, starring Will Smith as Chris Gardner. This is another true life story, quite similar in fact to Men of Honor. In the adversity you see the main character having to confront and overcome. Now, Chris Gardner's story is one of unrealized potential. He's an intelligent man who always did well at school. However, in his adult life, he's experienced failure after failure. He's tried to become an entrepreneur but failed and actually ended up homeless and a single father. He sees his redemption as a shot to become a stockbroker, and this leads him to a 6-month internship, which is unpaid, where he has to work all hours of the day at the stockbrokers, then leave the stockbrokers and try to sell these bone density scanners to earn a little bit of money to support himself, all while learning this new skill and facing challenge after challenge. For me, the most inspiring scene, and perhaps the reason why I'm placing it above Braveheart and Men of Honor, comes towards the end of the film, where Will Smith finally qualifies as a stockbroker. After 6 months of mayhem and adversity, he finally does it, and the partners turn to him and say, "Was it as easy as you made it look?" At this point, Will Smith sort of tears up a bit and sort of mumbles the words, no sir, no it wasn't. And I thought that was so powerful and so real to the fact that when you're attempting to live a dream, nobody really knows the struggle you go through. Nobody sees the failures you experience on a daily basis. Nobody sees the heartbreak you experience on a daily basis. You have to keep it inside yourself to some extent. But then you get that one sweet moment when you finally realize your dream and you can let it all out. And I thought that scene captured it perfectly and was such an inspiring moment. In at number 7 we have Joy, starring Jennifer Lawrence, and the true life story of inventor Joy Mangano, the creator of the self-ringing miracle mop. And what's so inspiring about this film is we get to see how one woman can succeed despite such a chaotic background and home life. We first see Joy supporting herself, living in a home, also supporting her children as well. She also has her ex-husband living in a basement. She's supporting her mum, who seems to watch daytime TV and never leave her room. And then her dad moves into their house as well. On top of this, she has a very demanding job, and she reaches a point where she feels completely overwhelmed. It's at this point she recalls her creativity and her childhood and how she used to invent things. However, like most people, as we get older and become adults and convince ourselves that we have to live in the real world, our creative side, our childlike dreams get pushed to the side. However, for Joy, in her moment of desperation, she returns to her childhood dreams and decides that she is going to give inventing a go. At this point, she creates and gets a patent for the self-ringing mop, and then spends a lot of the film trying to get an audience and market for her. And for me, the most inspiring scene comes where she finally finds a contact in the QVC channel who agrees to put her in front of the television audiences and give her an attempt to sell her mop. Now, after about 10 or 30 seconds of her fumbling and bumbling the presentation, she finally gets into her stride and is able to make some sales. And at the side of the studio, they have a sort of scoreboard which is measuring the live sales coming through. And as the scoreboard raises to about 50,000 sales, there's this real moment of elation, which almost brought tears of joy to my eyes watching it, because you know how much Joy has been through to get to this point. And for me, this was probably the most powerful thing about the film, is that it's such a relatable story, and it's a great credit to the director who's made it feel so believable. You almost believe that you could walk the same journey as Joy, and that's why I've included it in this list. In at number 6 we have The Walk, another true life story of high wire walker Philippe Petit and his dream to lay a wire between the North and South Twin Tower and walk across it at a height of 1,500 feet. Now, this film is set in the early 70s, and the reason it's so good is because it provides a blueprint for anybody who has a dream that they want to achieve in their life. So much so, in fact, that I made a video a couple of years ago called The 9 Steps to Achieving Your Dream, and use The Walk as the blueprint to walk you through the entire process. There's information on how to get the idea for your dream, idea inception. There's information on the training phase. There's information on building a team to help you realize your dream, and information on the strategy you'll need. All of that is in this film, and it's very engaging and entertaining as well. Perhaps for me, the most powerful scene is right at at the end, the climactic scene of the film where Philippe Petit is finally on one of the towers and is going to walk across. The camera pans down to show you the drop that lays beneath him, and even as someone who was sitting in a cinema, I felt a moment of fear just looking at that terrible height. I can't imagine how this man Philippe Petit did it. I can't imagine how he was able to focus just on that wire and switch his mind off completely from the prospect of falling. However, in the film and in real life as well, he doesn't just walk across it once. He then walks across it. He walks back across it, and he walks across it again. Then he lies down on it and starts pulling different poses on this high wire 1,500 feet up. One misstep, one miscalculation, and he is plummeting to a horrible death. I couldn't believe it as I watched the film. I was just begging for him to stop after he'd watched it once, but then he had to go back. But this was actually what was powerful about it. He loved what he was doing, and right at the start of the film he talks about never say the word death, only think of life. And he was up there celebrating life and celebrating living his dream. So we're halfway through our list now, and in at number 5 is Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. This is the 5th film in the Star Wars series, although if you go by the original 3, it is actually the 2nd. Now, some of you may think this is an odd choice for an inspiring film to change your life. However, amongst the original 3 films, there was a strong theme of destiny and also of good versus evil. Now, I chose the 2nd film, Empire Strikes Back, because of a particular series of scenes where Yoda is training Luke in the ways of the Force in the Dagobah swamps. And it's very insightful as well as inspirational, because we get a lot of wisdom from Yoda. And some of you may not be aware that there's a philosophical basis for the concept of the Force and the teachings of Yoda. They're basically derived from philosopher Joseph Campbell's writings on a book called A Hero with 1,000 Faces, and also his concept of the hero's journey. So there is some basis and credibility for the theory behind the Force, and as Yoda explains it to Luke, you get to see why it's so powerful. He teaches him that we're not this crude matter, and that energy is the core of everything. And there's a particular scene where he's asking him to raise a spaceship from the swamp, and Luke finds it hard to do this. Previously, Luke has been able to use the Force to raise stones, but he believes because of the spaceship's size that it's impossible. Yoda teaches him that nothing is impossible, and that you only limit yourself because if you don't believe. And this message is really key to the film, and along with its strong sense of destiny, you can watch this and feel not only uplifted by the triumph of good versus evil, but also enlightened into the possibility of a new world and new powers. Similar to Luke mastering the Force, you can also master something of the Force by realizing that belief rules this universe, and also the importance of energy rather than matter. In at number 4, we have The Hurricane, with Denzel Washington starring as Reuben Carter. Now, this is the true life story of the middleweight boxer who was falsely imprisoned for murder and his subsequent struggle to clear his name. Now, the thing that's so inspiring about this film is Denzel Washington's standout performance. I think he won an Oscar one or two years later for Training Day, but really he should have won it for this. Throughout the film, you get to see him portray Carter with a great deal of strength, but also there's this huge amount of dignity in his performance as he has to face injustice after injustice. This is a film that is going to both remove your faith in humanity, but then restore it. It gets removed initially when you see how one man can use the system to enact his racist grudge against Reuben Carter and falsely imprison him. It gets restored when you see a group of strangers come to Carter's aid and assist him in a lengthy legal battle. For me, this film conveyed the message that justice will be served in the end, and that if you're going through a huge personal struggle, then you must just keep going. The longer you can keep going, the greater the chance that some miracle might occur to save you and alleviate you from your situation. Into the top 3, and next up we have The Matrix. Now this film isn't inspiring in the way that Men of Honor, The Walk, The Hurricane or Joy is. It's more of a perception-changing inspiration. The film focuses on Neo as the main character. He's plugged into a computer mainframe that feeds him a software program generating a false reality in his mind. However, he's unaware of his situation until he's contacted by a group of freedom fighters led by a man called Morpheus who explain the truth. The whole film is a great metaphor for how we live our lives now. Instead of the Matrix, we have the system conditioning us to believe in a false reality whereby life can only be a certain way. However, if we unplug from this system, like Neo, we discover that there's so much more we can do and be. My favourite scene in the film comes towards the end, where Neo is able to stop some incoming bullets fired by an agent with his hand. It's at this moment that he realises that he's in control of his destiny. It's incredibly empowering, and if you make the same realisation by watching the film, then you'll leave this movie feeling really uplifted. In at number 2 we have Fight Club. Now Fight Club is very similar to The Matrix in the perspective-changing inspiration that it provides. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's a mind-blower. I remember leaving the cinema back in 1999 having watched this film, feeling like all of my problems had disappeared. Tyler Durden's life philosophy is that powerful. Now the film focuses on 2 key central characters. One is known as Jack, or the narrator, the other is Tyler Durden. Jack discovers Tyler at probably the lowest point in his life. He's completely disillusioned with his job and he's suffering from an insomnia. However, after embracing Tyler's twisted yet brilliant life philosophy, everything changes for him. Now the central themes of the film are letting go of the need to control, realizing that we're not the things we own, and only doing the work and activities that make us feel alive and that are important to us. Now there's a big plot twist probably about 3/4 of the way through Fight Club, which I don't want to reveal. However, I will say that this movie demonstrates how much a person can change when they stop living by society's rules. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed by the expectations and responsibilities of your life, then watch Fight Club to reaffirm that they're probably all bullshit. Finally, we've reached the end of the list. And for those of you who are regular viewers or have read my book, you'll be surprised to find that Fight Club didn't feature at number 1. However, because this is a top 10 of inspirational films, I've chosen to go with Shawshank Redemption. This film focuses on 2 main characters, Andy Dufresne and Red, and their relationship as they both serve out life sentences at Shawshank Prison. Andy has been falsely convicted for the murder of his wife. However, because he was drunk at the time and unsure of what he did, he actually accepts this conviction. Halfway through the film, though, he discovers through another inmate that he's actually innocent, and this lights a fire in him to try to win his freedom. Get busy living or get busy dying is both the mantra of Andy and the tagline of the film. We see him start to take small daily positive actions in an attempt to win his freedom. He starts working as an accountant for the corrupt warden. He builds up the prison library, and also in secret, he starts to dig a tunnel from his cell. The film is both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Despite this desperation of Andy's situation, he remains positive, and this is why it's so inspiring. My favourite scene comes right at the end of the film, when, after digging through 100 metres of prison sewage, Andy finally comes out the other side of his tunnel and is free. There's a moment where the rain is pouring down and he spreads his arms out wide and raises his head aloft, and you can see the pure elation that he's experienced. And my deepest wish is that every one of my viewers, all of you, get to experience such a moment in your life. The moment when, after years and years of work, or perhaps decades and decades, all of your hard work bears fruition and your dreams are realised. So that's the end of my list. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you got some good suggestions. I hope you're going to go and follow up on some of those films. Of course, this is just my list, and if you feel that I've missed anything out and there's something you want to add, then by all means mention in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.